April 7, 1943. Japan has launched a last-ditch effort to avenge its humiliation at Guadalcanal. Marine Lieutenant James Swett pursues 3 Japanese Val dive bombers attacking an Allied shipping convoy. The Val's rear gunners fire up at Swett's Wildcat. Then, a single burst from 300 yards ignites the lightly armored Val's fuel lines. It's Swett's first kill.
I just picked one and just gave him a squirt, and he flamed like crazy.
Swett closes in on a second valve. The bomber's right wing is riddled by the first burst. A second shot rips the fuselage. Swett has 2 kills in as many minutes. But almost immediately, Swett finds himself in a shootout with the third bomber's tail gunner. 7.7mm bullets zip past the Wildcat. But once again, Swett's incendiary rounds hit fuel. Then, a violent explosion off his left wing. It's friendly fire. Anti-aircraft flak has blown a hole in his Wildcat. Swett yanks his fighter out of the dive.
I was number 1, scared. Number 2, frightened. Number 3, ready to bail out of that darn thing. And you couldn't believe how nervous I was.
Swett keeps climbing, ready to call it a day, but he spots a line of Vals immediately in front of him. They've dropped their bombs and are hightailing for home. In spite of his battle damage, Swett closes on the Vals from behind. He lines one up and fires. It's kill number 4.
I was down below them, and so that the rear gunner couldn't shoot me. And when I fired my guns, I'd just stick the nose up a little bit and give a quick blast. And isn't that fantastic how they burned?
The uncompromising discipline of the Japanese naval aviators dictates that they stay in formation and not take evasive action.
Each one of them went down in turn as I was chasing them like this and shooting, and it only took 2 or 3 rounds per gun, and boy, it just ripped them up something awful, and they'd flame just like that.
A 5th victim drifts into the Wildcat's gun sights. The rear gunner leaps for his life moments before his plane plummets toward the ocean. On his first combat mission, the Marine rookie has become an ace in less than 15 minutes. Incredibly, the surviving Vals hold formation. Stunned at his luck, Swett pilots his Wildcat onto the tail of a 6th Val, downing it with a brief burst. Like a lion hunting panicked prey, Swett continues within the pack of Vals, lining up yet another victim. A smoking death roll marks his 7th kill. No longer scared, the Marine is starting to feel invincible.
Talk about overconfidence, that was me.
As he sizes up an 8th victim, Swett throws caution overboard.
I was aimed right straight for the rear gunner, and I flew right into that damn gun. He just blasted my windshield and me and everything else.
Swett is cut from the shattered glass, but fires a final burst and kills the Val's gunner at close range.
I can still see his eyes right now, the terror in his eyes while he was shooting at me, and when I fired back, he fell down into the cockpit. shocking.
But with no ammo in his crippled aircraft, Swett knows the next kill is likely to be him.
He hit my oil cooler and disabled my engine because the oil pressure just dropped like a ton of bricks. And I thought, uh-oh, I've got to get the heck out of here.
Swett's engine begins to fail. He decides to ditch off nearby Florida Island.
Just about, half a mile or so offshore, my engine froze. The prop stuck up like a middle finger. And so I made let my flaps come down, and they didn't, only one side worked. This flight didn't work at all for some stupid reason, probably the hole in my ring.
Swett makes an emergency landing. But upon impact with the water, his head strikes the control panel, breaking his nose. Worse, he's trapped in his sinking plane.
I made a water landing and went down about 25, 30 feet with the airplane. My shoulder strap was caught on the boat release hook right up over my right shoulder. And man, I struggled to get out of that damned airplane.
Reaching the surface, James Swett is rescued and spends 6 days in the hospital. He returns to Guadalcanal to learn he's been nominated for the Medal of Honor. Today, along with the medal, Swett holds the image of the Val's rear gunner.
The look on that rear gunner's face when I killed him, I still see it night after night after night.
James Swett and his fellow airmen were eventually joined by over 70 aircraft from Henderson Field. The Cactus Air Force turned back the Japanese onslaught. Never again will the Japanese take the offensive in the Pacific. The men of the Cactus Air Force can take pride in their critical role in turning the tide in the Pacific War.
And it was the kind of Americans who fought and prevailed under extraordinary circumstances at Guadalcanal, who demonstrated not only to themselves but to their entire generation that they had what it would take to prevail in World War II.
In the battle for the skies over Guadalcanal, the pilots of the Cactus Air Force flew more than 2,000 sorties, destroying over 425 Japanese planes and scoring a kill ratio of nearly 4-to-1.
The legacy of the pilots of the Cactus Air Force is absolutely amazing. We still study the battles. The lessons learned from Guadalcanal in 1v1 air combat aren't nearly as true today as they were then. The battle for Guadalcanal was a defining moment in Marine Corps history.
Led by men like John L. Smith, Jeff DeBlanc, and James Swett, this group of flyers overcame the worst of circumstances to send the best pilots of the Imperial